I have a bulldog right next to me who may be causing some menace during this, who knows. But okay, so first I just wanted to say that I know I haven't been doing a whole lot of videos this week, but it's just been a super busy week and been dealing with a little bit of health stuff, so I was kind of just trying to prioritize rest and kind of getting myself back on track. So hopefully next week I will be back and doing some more videos, have some cool stuff planned. But today I just wanted to do a video to talk about the article that I posted earlier this week in the group. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, even just the summary of it, go ahead and check it out at some point, because I think it's really important to look at. And I wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about some of the things that were highlighted in this study. And really, you know, it's not earth-shattering stuff. We're talking about how holding on to these sort of daily stressors, these kind of daily hassles, these seemingly small things that happen all throughout your day, all throughout your week. So it's a good time actually to be talking about this on a Friday afternoon, but thinking about all of those little tiny hassles, those little tiny stressors that can build up and add up throughout the week, that can really increase our stress level if we're not dealing with them, if we're not managing them. But as this article suggested, right, if we're not letting them go, if we're holding on to these things and ruminating about them and going over and over them in our head and really still holding on to something that happened during the day in the evening, or even holding on to it the next day, so that your body is still reacting as if it's happening, or still reacting with a stress reaction. I'm sure you guys have had this experience, right, where you're either preparing for a conversation to happen, or you're imagining what a conversation, how it might go, and you feel yourself getting angry and frustrated over something that you've completely created in your head, right? It's a scenario that didn't even happen. So your body reacts to that, right? It's always a good example to give to folks, I think, when we're trying to figure out, like, how does our body respond to our thoughts? How does our body respond to our emotions? In a really quick and dirty way to try to understand that. There's lots of complex ways that your body responds as well, but that's a good example of responding to something that is solely going on in your head, right? So even if one of these sort of minor hassles occurred earlier in the day or earlier in the week, we may still be like emotionally holding on to it. We may still have created a story in our head about it or about why it happened, and then are holding on to the emotions that go on with that and letting it take up space in our head and energy, so that it's something that is still in our system, that we're still going over, that's still causing and feeding into stress, which as we hold on to these chronic stressors, it just can impact our mood, it can impact our health, as we've talked a lot about in this group, right? We know that stress impacts our mood, we know that stress impacts health. And the experience of how we deal with these stressors and how we cope with them, how we manage them, how we let them go or not, can really, really impact our health and our mood and our mindset. And then we're more likely to experience stress from the other small daily hassles that come up, because we're already in a state of being frustrated and angry and overwhelmed and irritated. So I want you to really think about that, you know. Think about how you identify if you're experiencing stress, first of all. So how do I know if I'm feeling irritated, or if I'm feeling stressed, or if I'm feeling overwhelmed? What happens in my body if I pick the longest line in the grocery store, if someone says a rude comment to me, if I have a bad interactions with my boss, if somebody cuts me off as I'm driving? Like, what happens in my body, right? Where do I feel that? What am I saying to myself? How am I feeling? How do I explain this to myself? And then how soon after can I move past it? Can I let that go? Can I let it not take up space in my mind, in my body, in my energy? How quickly can I release it? And do I have some sort of way where I'm noticing and bringing that into my attention to say, man, I'm still thinking about that thing that happened 3 days ago. Why am I still thinking about that? What's going on that's causing me to hold on to it? Why? You know, is it serving me in some ways? Or some information I'm still trying to process? Are there questions I have about it? Or am I just sort of stuck and spinning and going over and over it so that I'm holding on to some of that emotion? It's still in my space. It's still in my world. It's taking up energy for me. It's taking up space. So that can be really, really important in terms of noticing when we're doing that and being able to sort of intentionally release that, intentionally let that go when we feel like we're holding on to these small daily hassles, because they do add up. Even though they don't sound like big things to stress about, these little tiny things that happen throughout the day, throughout the week, can really add up and put strain on your body, so that by the end of the week you can be feeling overwhelmed, tired, emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted. Especially for those of us who are sort of more sensitive to those kinds of things and more sensitive to kind of negative interactions or negative people in our space. Some of us experience that more intensely, and that's fine, right? I'm one of those people, right? So making sure that you're sort of separating from how you're handling something and getting it out of your energy field, getting it out of your mind, out of your emotions, out of your rumination, if it's something that's happened that you feel like, I need to close the door on this and move forward. I don't need to have that going over and over in my head. So, I'm just wondering if you guys have experienced this, right? And also how you know when you're holding on to something, and what are you doing to kind of help yourself let it go and move forward from those sort of smaller day-to-day hassles. So let me know what you think. Post in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, and I hope that you guys have a really great weekend. Oh, and James just wants to say hi too. Okay, hi, bud. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.